you mind if I ask Kevin a question about this? Kevin, when it comes to the First Nations history and in your closing ceremony tonight, you talked about your connection to the star beings and that it's part of your past. What can you tell us about that?
Well, this has already happened here. There's deja vus and consciousness that's already been predetermined, pre-planned. This is like us being here, there's no coincidence.
Right.
Synchronicities, right? And there's a spiritual science involved with that. So whether you're reptilian, you're plant, you're animalian, you're water, you're bird, you know, your whole relationship is complete. It's one. So today, when we're getting information coming in on us, and you know, we're building our coding, and that's inside our programming. Like the baby that's born, we spoke of the little one that was born, brought the PowerPoints, and then. So us as children, growing up and coming here, we chose to come to Earth, you know, spiritually, you know.
Yeah.
And whether the mechanics have been African, Asian, or Nordic, or European, or South American, the spirit of the intent to come here is now driving this machine. This body is a suit. It's an astronaut suit. You know, so now blood and your skin and gifts, you know, of psychic and telepathy and gifted ones that could turn water into wine and walk across water and do these supernaturals. And the timelessness of it, because this world's time out of sequence. It's a spatial time where you can't measure where it began or ended, you know. And as you mentioned, in the consciousness of the genetic universe, or I forget how you made that term.
The galaxy is genetically connected already.
Yes, and how big is this galaxy? Is it singular? Is it plural? Is it enfolding and unfolded? Is it?
Yeah.
You know, so there's this word we say Segwandiso, which is the great mystery, and it's involved with common denominators here of circles, triangles, squares, numbers, spirals and circles, and building blocks that are upon us right now.
Okay.
This is so cool tonight.
That is.
There's no place I'd rather
awesome.
be.
Yeah, I know. I just can't believe it.
No.
It's just-
I don't want to interrupt you.
This
You
is so
said
cool.
circles.
So they found a burial. Right, and all the whole eastern seaboard was all burial mounds and earth mounds related to structures in the constellation and stars and animals and everything. They're completely got plowed over and robbed because of the history that is involved in there. They do not want you to be triggered into where we are today and where we're going today. They wanted to stall it, right? But you can't, right? It's inevitable, right? So the archaeology became in place. Smithsonian was developed, and then under world orders, they controlled archaeological discoveries, right?
Yes.
Because they did not want you to know. And the Vatican has, you know, the church, the state, the empire. So what's happening now? The reality is that going back to when they discovered the Americas, the Freemasons, for example, or the Templars or Illuminatis, those ones that are very ritualistic in their endeavors, and their lodges are very in tune with those controlling energies. But the sword has two sides to the blade, you know. So then they found a burial of a native chief in the earth, and he was buried more precise than their grand lodge carrier, you know. And they were so shocked that it was done more precisely and more in tune beyond their capacity that they knew that they were dealing with the higher, you know, the greater consciousness, which led to, like, why Christopher Columbus said we met the people of God, right? In Dios, right? In God, right? So I'm just going to fly out of it. When those three ships came out, normal people couldn't see them, you know, because they were moving at a different vibration. The medicine people had to do songs and bring them down to a lower vibration so they can see that wooden ship. And Maria Pina and Santa.
I'm getting chills
Yeah,
right
I know,
now,
I
man.
know, me too.
So what had happened was those ships were offshore enough that you could see them, but the normal people couldn't see them. You're moving at a different harmonic. You know, your sound and your vibration and your language and and your garden is totally everything at once, you know. So why you wouldn't be able to see it was because those trees that were made out of those boats were in Spain. They were harvested by steel. They weren't harvested in prayer. They were kind of like clear cut, like we see this world going on. When you traditionally harvest your food and animals and your product, your clothes, it's still alive with you, right? This is a silk shirt, right? And maybe this is polyester. So there's different ideas on how you should keep natural cloth and clothing. So it's almost like me going into his pockets and helping myself. You'll feel bad, you know? Or like Master Marolo yelling and screaming on water and putting hate on there. It turns bad.
Yeah.
You feel it one way or another, right? If I was going to say I was going to hurt this plant, it starts shaking already, right? They already have done studies of, through the lie detector test. What do they call that? Polygraph test, right? So the consciousness is H2O, they say, hydrogen, right? David Sereda, right, if you heard of him. The consciousness of water and how we're, you know, over 90% water, right? And we're elements of the earth and universe, right? So, in a nutshell, what's happened here, what's happening on earth is like this little lotus right here. It's never ever happened before, you know? You know? And the universe and dimensions have put themselves together to bring us together. You know? And there's a lot of story to that. See, like we can shapeshift. There's ceremony where you can travel in light and go into another dimension, right? And you come back and you bring the story what he needed to hear. You know, and we, you know, like Wi-Fi. Forget about that. You could actually go and find.
So, what would you say to someone that just says, "I'm utterly confused, and I'm here in the year 2015. I'm confused. I'm depressed. I don't know what to do." What would you say to that person?
The world is hurting.
Well, in context, you know, the beautiful thing is that when you're lost, you get found. Right? So it's like in your own personal struggles. If you're in the valley of darkness or the worst, darkest spot in your life, you know you couldn't get any darker. You know there's no place but up, right? So if they're lost and confused, you're going to immediately go right into what is their roots. You know, I want to know who their roots are. Are you Asian? Are you Nordic? Are you Sami? Are you Celtic? Are you Irish? Are you African American? Are you Caribbean? Are you, you know, South American? And then we begin the conversation. Well, because the big deal is colonization, right? Colonization is the mind. Before anything was discovered, colonization of the mind took place in Europe. 1,000 years before they even went out into their colonies. So why did they get colonized? They destroyed the genocide of the women in Europe. That's a untold.
That's the absolute genocide of women in Europe. It's untold.
They totally destroyed all the women, right? The Pista Sophia.
The church?
And that was the burning of the women.
Let's just kill millions of women and not say anything about it.
And which actually in old English means Wicca.
Nuts.
Wiccan, and what it actually means is unlicensed sorcerer.
Nuts what happened.
So, unlicensed sorcerer. So that's like me being Native American, giving me a status card to say I'm an Indian, you know? I do not need that, you know, and neither do you need a license to fly or drive or however. It's institutionalization. Right?
They spun all these stories saying these women are working for the devil and they're evil and they're against the church. And
so Da Vinci's, you know, there's a 13th one in there. It's a female.
The man,
So the sacred scrolls of the Gnostics and Nagamanis, they talk of the sacred woman, the divine feminine. So this world now is going through a masculine feminine phase. You know, boys are girls and girls are boys and boys and girls and girls and boys. And they don't know
I think did Talking Heads do a song like that, or I forget who it
parents because their parents didn't want to be parents. So it goes. So in our culture, and I'm speaking all about my world over here. And it's very important that cycle and that lineage takes place, right? So we have relationships that are timeless, and as I mentioned with regards to our language is alive. So, for example, my elder, he could sing a song and call in rain, you know, and rain will come, right? So forget about harp and all that.
Yeah.
He can already do that.
Yeah, you guys are geoengineering the planet well before us.
Now,
I see it's catching up, but it's not. You know, like these phones right now. For example, there was a medicine man. His son went off to school, and the family got sick, and so they did a shaking tent, and he was 1,000 miles away. A shaking tent is a lodge where it's a light lodge, and he went into this lodge, and in that. So what had happened was his son, 1,000 miles away, got in. He had a 6-pack, and he sat down, and he felt real tired. He went for a quick nap, and through that dream world, they got a hold of him to say, "Come home immediately. Your father's sick." And so he just got up. After that, his friends were here like this. He said, "I gotta go home. I gotta go home." Went 1,000 miles back home, and sure enough, you know. And for example, show you another one was these young men were out on a canoe. For example, they lost the gun out of the canoe, and losing the gun is the worst case scenario. That's your livelihood. And all you need is one shot for the kill, you know. And you eat what you are, right? The animals are the medicines, and the medicines are the animals, and vice versa. So you're not vegetarian or animal eater. You are all what you eat, right? So what happened was this canoe, they're playing around, and the gun fell off into the lake. They come back to the community. They didn't have to say nothing because it's like, where's this gun? So my father was a teacher in this community, and they asked him to come and watch the ceremony. So they did the shaking tent, and they went and spoke to the animals, and they asked the animals, "We need to find where this gun is." And they asked the others, and the animals said, "Yes, I see the gun. It's at the bottom of the lake. Can we bring it home?" "Yes, we can." "Okay, well, we'll bring it home for us, please." The next morning of that day, in that community tree there, the gun was sitting on the side of that tree, you know. So that's an example of how you can use, you know, the movie Star Wars and the X-Men and Star Trek was based on indigenous knowledge of our relationship with the greater force of power.
The system, you get an email from me very soon.
bravo.